My name's Missy England, and for my capstone project presentation, I chose the topic of the mental struggles that our ELL students go through in public school, because I thought that as teachers we tend to focus on the academic struggles of our students and their academic needs, and tend to neglect the fact that they have deeper emotional needs that we're thinking that parents or counselors or specialists are going to deal with, that they often don't. So I broke it into 3 parts for it to be easier to think about in ways that we can actually see it as you work with the student, because there's a lot that these kids go through that we're not talking about just during academic time. So the first part would be what they experience. And that is different between every kid, whether they're ELL or English or way above grade level or below grade level or have an IEP. So for ELL students in particular, they're coming into this new school with a new language and having to deal with a new culture, which is going to impede them from doing their new curriculum and learning their new academics because they don't know what you're saying. If you ever took the 2 years required in high school for a foreign language, I took 3 years of French and I still didn't understand fluently, or even conversational French that I'd been practicing all the way. And that's having 1 hour a day, every day, dedicated to studying that language. These kids are not getting that. They are being thrust into a classroom that only speaks English and being asked to learn reading, writing, math, speaking, science, social studies, art, computers, and never once are they being given direct instruction on that language in most schools. And this leads to a lot of these things. Social isolation, because they can't communicate with other students. And when they're younger, it's easier for all of them to use body language to play games where they don't need to be able to use their words. But as they get older, especially, English-speaking kids may push them away because they don't know how to communicate with each other. This and being behind on academics can lead to anxiety and depression. They don't want to interact with the kids in their class because they fear being shunned, or they fear being laughed at when they get the answer wrong. This can lead to low self-esteem, and it can also lead to anger. They can lash out and yell and scream and even be volatile because they're not being able to fulfill their needs because they can't ask for it, and they can't understand if they're being asked. Something that's more rare, and thank goodness for it, is PTSD in our students. But some of our ELL students will be refugees. They're coming from places where they were starving or unsafe or even in the middle of a war. And they have episodes sometimes, fear, anything can set it off, and that's not just going to go away. So we have to learn how to help them and be their teachers and help them learn a new language. So our second part would be, what do we do? What can we do about this? The good thing is that there's a lot that we can do for them. There is many different ways to help students with many different things. The first most common thing and the most helpful is to get them pre-screened. And that's just where you look at statistics and behaviors in different classes for people who may be showing these signs, and you pull those kids out discreetly and you test them for depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, PTSD, anything and everything. For those who do test, the project SHIFA, SHIFA, has set up a multi-tier sorry, multi-tier setup for these kids where that starts with peer mentoring with a kid who can help, that knows what they're going through, to small groups for social interaction and academics and language, all the way to therapy, parental help, and community involvement. One of the more simpler and harder at the same time, because there's so few of them, is just to get a counselor and or interpreter that child can just sit down and talk to and be understood. Because talking in a language that's not your original language, that you may not be fluent in, can be exhausting after hours and hours of doing it, especially for young children. So that leads us to our sadder point, is that we're not doing it. Of all of the kids that pass a pre-screen test, 30% of ELL students are being actually taken care of for a first evaluation. And then less than half of those kids are being continually taken care of, whether they screen yes or no for any of the following. And the main reason for that is just resources, mainly time and interpreters. They can't be tested or helped or taken care of if they don't know what the counselor is saying or the teacher is saying, and when those professionals don't know what they are saying. And there's not a lot that we can do about it just as teachers, but compassion and patience. In that video that we've watched more than once about this little boy in a math class who is trying to get his point across but can only say the answer in English, the teacher asks him multiple times, and when he can't do it, other children laugh at him, and then the teacher moves on. To better that situation, the teacher would have let those other students know that it was not okay to laugh at them, that he was learning. That would have helped with anxiety, depression, social isolation, and low self-esteem in that student. And then if she had taken more time to look at his work, share it on a dot camera instead of forcing him to speak in English the whole time, or coming back to him after the lesson to talk more about it, to help him, it could have impeded these darker feelings in him from continuing, or it could have prevented them. And while we are probably going to already be overwhelmed with kids having issues that we have to help them with during school that isn't academic, these are really important. And between just finding the time and hopefully finding enough interpreters to help these students, they can do just as well as any child who grew up speaking English. It doesn't make it easy for them though. It doesn't make it easy for us. That's why as teachers, we have to be compassionate. And we all are on the inside. Thank you.